morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Billy took a look at the calendar, and then she looked at me and she said, "Do you realize that it was 24 years ago this week that your program first went on the air?" Well, she was right, and that makes this the 1248th edition of the Spirit of the West. Hope you like it. This week, I'm going to pull the wraps off another wonderful work of contemporary Western music, the latest effort from Bran Hill called How You Heal. And I'll talk to this fine young songwriter and cowboy about some of the inspiration for the great stuff he's writing.
I still, to this day, I plan to steal time to throw a saddle on the back of a horse and go see some country.
Baxter Black is back, and he'll have you riveted to your radio, or, well, at least stapled to it.
Catapulted in a flailing arc 10 feet in front of the calf, and had somehow managed to ear-tag his left pant leg.
Lots of news from the world of horses, cattle, and cowboys on the Rangeland News, and we'll have more good advice for grillers.
A hamburger patty could be totally gray, no pink, still not be cooked to the required internal temperature of 160 degrees needed to kill any bacteria in there.
And we have a classic Song of the West, and its origins are lost in the midst of time, but I think just about everybody's heard at least one version of it. And a rancher takes a somewhat affectionate look at an old cow that inflicted more than a few bumps and bruises on him and the crew. You'll hear her story in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, and on the Horse Training File, how the journey from being a good rider to a great horseman can evolve. And I hope you can listen closely to the great songs we'll bring you this week, and I'll visit with Bran Hill after this one that sure resonates with a lot of us. Don't mind at all being called this modern-day middle-aged cowboy.
Doing what he can to survive, chasing his tail from 9 to 5. He's gonna go to a rodeo on a weekend. Married a girl from town. She swore that she'd settle him down, but he's got a wild side and a desire to ride that don't end. And he's too much in the bottle and way too into cattle. He's really trying to be a father, but when he's 6 feet in the saddle, he's a modern day middle-aged cowboy. He's caught and dallied hard to his glory days, roping and riding while his whole life goes gliding by him. Better to burn out than fade away for the modern day middle-aged cow. She wants him to build a new house. He wants to buy some more cows and build a few new stalls on the barn for his new horses. She wants to travel someday. He wants to take her away to some old rodeo somewhere. They're on separate courses, and she's too much in his business, and he don't ever listen. She swears that she'll be gone by Christmas. He promises she'll miss him. He's a modern day middle-aged cow. He's caught and dallied hard to his glory days, roping and riding while his whole life goes gliding by him.
Without a doubt, one of the finest writers and performers of 21st century music of the West, Bren Hill. That trail has taken you quite a ways. You've had quite a commitment to this kind of music, it seems.
I tell everybody I'm like a brand new car with 100,000 miles. I just, I've still young, but I have put on an awful lot of miles. Seen a lot of this country. You know, I've been from southern Florida to northern Alberta, and just really have been fortunate, and continues to be, of course, a bit of a struggle. You know, when you have something to say with music, it seems to be a little bit harder nowadays. And you know, something to say for me is, hey, there's a very important way of life, a value system connected to it, and people who are still struggling to put food on our table here. And you know, rural America and Canada need representation in the world. You know, we're doing an awful good job of keeping food on people's tables. So that's important to me, and so I feel fortunate to just be able to have somewhere else to go all the time. You know.
We talk about this within the industry, I guess, and that includes the cattle industry, the ranching industry, the culture of the North American cowboy, which includes not just the economics of the cattle business and the horses and the associated saddle makers, gear makers, silversmiths, and everything else, but it also includes the wonderful artists that paint the West in oil paintings and watercolors, and of course the poets and the musicians. It's all so much a culture that is based on the day-to-day workings of the working cowboy on the ranches today. And I was talking to somebody that was involved in an application for a mainstream country music radio station a while back, and they said, oh, Western music died out when Trigger died. There's no such thing. And I thought, my gosh, have you ever heard Bren Hill? Have you ever heard R.W. Hampton? Have you ever heard Belinda Gale? I mean, it's just, it is so good, and it's so refreshing, and yet the mainstream general public almost is oblivious to it in a way. And I'm sure you've come up against that. And although you've had considerably more airplay than a lot of artists, you probably still face them.
Well, I come up against it all the time. I mean, that's really, I don't want to call it a barrier, because I really, I don't like to think of barriers. You know, I think that what I've been able to do is find other sort of channels, you know, where I can get heard.
Well, if you enjoyed that song, wait till you hear the next one coming up when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Just the other day, I was sitting around with a group of folks, and I was picking my guitar and singing some special songs about horses, and the consensus of the group was that modern country music and Western music are pretty much the same. Well, I guess maybe they overlap in a few places, but Bren Hill is an eloquent spokesman for the unique qualities that make the music of the West so special.
You know, but constantly I think the perception among a lot of mainstream society is that Western music is dead and gone, and so I do come up against that from time to time, and I fight against it. You know, it's not dead and gone. The West is not dead and gone. Ranching is not dead and gone. Family ranching is not dead and gone. You know, I have friends raising their families on ranches with small herds of cattle, struggling, but they're doing it, and it can be done, and it's a labor of love. You know, you just have to be dedicated to it, and so we'll see if we can change some of that perception.
A lot of the economy of the interior of BC depends on cattle ranching. The land around here doesn't grow crops. It grows trees and it grows forage. And we have our big government grazing permits, much like U.S. BLM allotments, and thousands of acres without fences. It takes good cowboys on good horses. And the kind of cattle, or the kind of cows that'll bring back a good, healthy calf at the end of the grazing season, and she's covered hundreds of miles of that rangeland. And so here's another terrific track from your new CD, and oh boy, this special song resonates down deep in a lot of us.
Somewhere tonight on Big D double L, you're watching the sun going down, and there's a chill coming on, and the fire's burning well. as you look out across hallowed ground. There's a coyote dancing along Mackie Draw. There's a golden hawk perched on the wire, and there's a bedroll waiting for your head to fall as you stare deep into the campfire. And I've been camped where you are, and I've wished upon the same star, and I would give every last penny I'll spend if I could be 20 and cowboy again. On an old Texan saddle with no bucking rolls and a hand-me-down shank snaffle bit, and a rawhide riata that's too long to hold, and a pair of old chinks that don't fit. It's 17 miles from the highway across to the head of the summertime range, and there's no one but you and the crew and the boss, and there's nowhere to hide if it rains. And I've been camped where you are, and I've wished upon the same stars, and I would give every last penny I'll spend if I could be 20 and cowboy again. And I've got a place of my own, and I've got a woman I love, and I am never alone, but sometimes that just isn't enough. 'Cause I've been camped where you are, and I've wished upon the same stars, and I would give every last penny I'll spend if I could be 20 and cowboy again.
First time we played that one in the old pickup truck CD player, I had to hit replay right away. It's called 20 and Cowboy from Wren Hill, and I'm really happy to be sharing this microphone with him. Now, can you tell me a little bit about maybe your earlier days and your background and where you grew up in Utah, what things were like there?
Well, believe it or not, I grew up in the suburbs of a town called Ogden, which is north of Salt Lake City, about 35 miles. And my family had some land east of Ogden. Been in the family for a long time. And, I'm about a generation removed from livestock as a livelihood. And always wished that I could have been born just a little bit earlier, that 60s and 70s period when the cattle prices were good, and I think my family kept it going as long as we could, and there's still some land left there in Utah that we own, but nobody's really dedicated to raising livestock on it. But when I got out of high school, I'd had just enough of that growing up that I had to taste it. I had to get on the back of a horse and chase cows, and I fortunately had a few opportunities to do that. And one of my friends who first invited me to come work at a ranch there in Stoddard, Utah, is raising his family on a ranch in Halfway, Oregon right now. And so I have just enough of that in my background to know, to know what real cowboys are all about. And Hugh, I don't think God made me to be a cowboy. I think what he made me to do is to write songs and sing about them, and sort of be a bridge, if you will, to the people who are fascinated with that lifestyle and maybe don't really understand it, and the people who live that lifestyle. And if I can paint a real picture of life in the modern West, and get a greater understanding to people who maybe don't have the opportunity to get out there and chase cows for a living, I think it's going to do a lot to perpetuate this lifestyle.
Well, I know that it is, Bren. And there's more from Bren Hill before this is done. And next, quite a story from the one and only Baxter Black, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan with a little peek at catching my horse. What makes America the most productive, generous country on earth? Well, it's ordinary people like us working together to achieve extraordinary things. B&W builds the trailer hitches that hook the loads that haul the grain, the coal, the cattle, cotton, gas, horses, and RVs that keep America on the road. Quality made, employee-owned, and customer-tuned. B&W trailer hitches working together to keep America proud. Dakota Mike had a swollen right knee and was down for a week and had to wait till Saturday, his darling wife's day off, to tag and vaccinate his newborn calves and mend a hole in the fence. Mike loaded his saddlebag with everything he thought he'd need. He figured he could pack the nearly empty spindle of barbed wire. He stood on the tie pile to mount. Wincing, he got his right leg swung over the saddle and gently maneuvered his tennis-shod foot into the right stirrup. He squared up and eased his horse, Forrest, named after Forrest Gump, beside the pickup to reach the wire roll. He picked it up. The loose roll made a queer rattling sound, one that Forrest recognized from the Rattlesnake program on Discovery Channel. He hunched and fired straight back with both legs. Mike had his left arm outstretched with the reins, his right hand outstretched with the wire, his left foot in the stirrup, and his noodle right leg hanging limp. Forrest punched him into a two-point landing at his wife's horse's feet. Darlin leaned over and said, "Are you all right?" "Go catch my horse," he said. With the fence repaired, they rode into the heifers. Mike prided himself on his cow's mothering instinct. He creaked off his horse, noting the nearby mama cow pawing the ground, and snuck up on a still wet newborn with a loaded ear tagger and syringe. He carefully dropped down on the calf with one knee. In a blinding flash, he was flying backwards, banging his head on the frozen cow pies and filling his collar with muck. "Are you all right?" Darlin asked. "Go catch my horse." Across the pasture, he again detached himself from Forrest and approached another newborn. Not seeing the mother, he managed to straddle this one, was supporting it between his trembling limbs. He felt something in his crotch and looked down. A black nose and muzzle, the exact size and width of a cow's head, protruded between his legs. In less time than he could put two and two together, he was catapulted in a flailing arc 10 feet in front of the calf and had somehow managed to ear-tag his left pant leg. "Are you all right?" Darlin asked. "Go," he grunted. "I know," she said. "I know." This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by B&W Turnover Bowl.
July 1st to the 3rd, it's an awesome weekend of cowboy, poetry, and country music. You'll be entertained by Twin Kennedy, Stuart McDougal, the Command Sisters, B.J. Smith, Ed Brown, Wendy Scott, Randy and Ray Smith, Mag Mawiney, Matt Robertson, and Russ Graff. The show is completely indoors, no matter what the weather. Meals and a concession available. For information on weekend and day passes, contact the Vilna Agricultural Society at 780-260-0222 and visit vilnaagsociety.com. Just ahead of the Rangeland news, here's a guy I haven't seen for quite a while, although we had some great times sharing a few stages together. This is from his highly acclaimed album 1880s Cowboys, and you gotta love his great finger-picking acoustic guitar style. As we open it up, this is Jim Reeder.
my music on the cowboy side. I've been itching for some picking at the end of a long day's ride. In the saddle all day, getting soaked by the rain. Maybe overnight those clouds will go away. This ain't no job for a silver spoon, but it's my life and I love the cowboy tune. Sing me a song with the guitar picking along, a little bit of fiddle and a whole lot of bass and a mandolin for sure. This life, it takes its toll. Carry me away, let's go. Music of the cowboy is soothing to my soul. Sleeping on the ground night after night ain't half bad in the clear moonlight, but it's a thunder and roar of the lightning, now that's a fright. It only takes a sec to get the herd off the deck. A wild stampede is a full-blown wreck, 'cause it don't take much to scare them cows to death. Then we'll chase them like the wind in the face of the devil's breath. Sing me a song with the guitar picking along, a little bit of fiddle and a whole lot of bass and a mandolin for sure. This life, it takes its toll. Carry me away, let's go. Music of the cowboy is soothing to my soul. And cowboy music really does soothe my soul.
News of the rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West. We'll tell you what's new under the western sky right after this word from the cattlemen of Western Canada.
BC cattle producers have funded food safety research throughout Western Canada to help develop new methods of delivering high-quality, safe beef products. This ensures that beef has the same great quality at your local meat counter as it does when it leaves the ranch.
Now, the Rangeland News, top of page 1. You know, guys love tools, and it carries over from the shop to the deck. And we've got a pretty nice barbecue, and I've got a grill cover, a grill scraper, a paintbrush for applying barbecue sauce, and canola oil to the grill, a pair of tongs for turning the steaks, and yes, we do have what Gary Crawford says is the most important tool of all.
Well, we've got all those fancy barbecue and grilling tools, the tongs, forks, spatulas, knives, but one expert says many of us don't have the most essential tool, or we don't use it anyway, and that's a meat thermometer. Marianne Gravely with the Agriculture Department's Meat and Poultry Hotline says one of the biggest goofs many of us make when grilling is undercooking to the point of not killing bacteria that may be in or on the meat we're grilling. Some of us say, of course, we can eyeball it and tell if it's cooked right.
Well, the only way to know if you've cooked something thoroughly is to use a meat thermometer. You can't tell by looking.
She says, for example, a hamburger patty could be totally gray, no pink, still not be cooked to the required internal temperature of 160 degrees needed to kill any bacteria in there. For whole cuts of beef, pork, and other red meats, it's 145 degrees. Poultry cuts, 165. And again,
color's not a reliable indicator of doneness.
So she says to be a real outdoor grilling expert, we have to use a meat thermometer. For more information on grilling or any food safety subject, call the Meat and Poultry Hotline. It's 1-888-MP Hotline. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Brazil's government voted last week on a move to free up as much as $5.8 billion in additional credit for farmers and cattle ranchers in an effort to help pull Latin America's largest economy out of a 2-year recession. In a statement, the National Monetary Council, that's Brazil's top economic policy-making body, allowed farmers to use proceeds from the sale of securities backed by agricultural receivables for purposes beyond short-term operating activities while raising the threshold on agricultural credit from state development banks. Both measures, which aim to increase the flow of funding towards machinery, purchases, and other investment. They are having quite a time down there. Well, the boss of Monsanto, Hugh Grant, could land more than $70 million U.S. if the world's largest seed company is taken over by the German chemicals giant Bayer. The U.S. firm said it was open to engaging in further negotiations with Bayer after turning down its $62 billion bid as incomplete and financially inadequate. That's $122 per share offer, and it would allow Chief Executive Officer and Chairman Grant to walk away with a total package of more than $123 million after the takeover, including from the sale of shares and the exercise of options that he already owned. Over the years, there's been quite a bit of debate over whether 2- and 3-year-old horses should be showing in the United States. The AQHA futurity age for reining horses starts at 3, and the AQHA futurity age for Western Pleasure and Hunter under saddle starts at 2 years. It appears now that Switzerland and Germany are setting their own trend. Switzerland and Germany have announced their respective quarter horse associations have resolved to prohibit 3-year-old horses from being ridden in competitions and futurities. Horses must be at least 4 before they're permitted to compete under saddle, and they also resolved that 4-year-old and older quarter horses can be ridden two-handed in a snaffle or a hackamore in shows. And this is pretty sad. One of the greatest performance horses of all time, Top Sales Rainmaker, that's R-E-I-N, died last week. He carried Russell Dilday to 4 of the world's greatest horseman championships, one of the most spectacular teams to ever compete. They were a perfect match. In his announcement, Russell said there was something magical about the horse he called Slider. What he didn't have in size, he made up in heart. He never met a cow he couldn't catch. Our condolences to Russell on the loss of his great partner. I'm just glancing at the poster for the 40th annual Ivan Daines Friends and Heroes Country Music Picnic. It takes place August 10th to the 14th at the Daines Rodeo Ranch, just a little ways out of Innisfail. My goodness, what a lineup. David Frizzell. Remember David Frizzell and Shelley West with You're the Reason God Made Oklahoma? The great Lacey Jade Dalton. She hasn't made too many appearances in Canada. And Marty Haggart, the son of Merle Haggart, Dwayne Steele, a legend in Canadian country music, R. Harlan Smith. Oh, gosh, and so many more. Fred Doberstein is going to be there, and Ivan will also be having his Canadian Championship Horse Training Competition. And if there are trainers that are still interested, you can contact Cade Mills at 403-392-8602. He'll have some great trainers there, including folks like Tommy DeRoche, Brent Trout, Rod Olson, and many more. And we are going to try and be involved with that to some extent as well, because we will be there. And that is August the 10th to the 14th at the Daines Ranch, the 40th annual Ivan Daines Country Music Picnic. Well, June the 21st is the day you might find those treasures you've been looking for. Great lineup of machinery and equipment at the Innisfail Auction Market. And you can call the market for more details. Of course, they have regular cattle sales every Wednesday, 2 horse sales a month. You can get all the details at InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. And you know, there's always an issue of Alberta Beef Magazine and Beef Illustrated on our kitchen table. Doesn't matter where you live, it's a great way to keep up with the pulse of the cattle industry, and you can subscribe at 403-250-1090. And that brings us down to the final item, and this one just came in from a good friend of ours from out in the Eastern Slope country, Morgan Wilson. And it could be true. It took me a while to get this, actually, but Morgan said he now has a stepladder because his first ladder left home many years ago. Okay, and that's the Rangeland News. Coming up on the Horse Training File, I'll discuss the evolution of a good rider into a great horseman. And there's more from Wren Hill when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. There are a lot of good riders around, but not as many true horsemen. And it's a long ways from one to the other, and I'll discuss it in more detail on the Horse Training File coming right up. First, though, for those of you who've been asking about the next Spirit of the West cruise, I'm happy to tell you that it will take place in June of 2017, and the whole gang will be going way up north. That's right. My wife Billy and I will be hosting a great group of Spirit of the Westers aboard the beautiful Holland America ship, the Noordam. And we'll sail out of the spectacular Vancouver Harbor, visiting Ketchikan, Juneau, Skagway, Glacier Bay, and then we'll have 2 spectacular days of sightseeing in Denali National Park. Then we'll board the magnificent McKinley Railroad with their sightseeing dome cars and hopefully have a good look at North America's highest peak, Mount McKinley. And then it's on to Anchorage. Our entire schedule with prices and everything else is available on the cruise page at our website, hugh-mclennan.com. And you can get all the information at this toll-free number, 1-800-530-0131. Now here comes the horse training file. If you're going to do it wrong, you're going to hurt yourself, your horse, and or someone else. Don't be that person. I think that's a quote from Buck Brannaman, but it follows closely with what a lot of other top hands like Jonathan Field, Miles Kingdon, and many more would say. The journey from being a rider to a horseman is longer and more challenging than most people would ever think. It's almost impossible to just do it in your spare time. The movements have to become innate muscle memory. The development of feel, timing, and balance may not seem like a big deal to the average rider, but it means everything to the horse. The feel that great horsemen have developed through years of experience with horses of every kind is something even they didn't know existed when they started. Subtle things like the position of your seat in the saddle, your riding posture, the rhythm you develop to harmonize with the horse's gaits all mean so much to the horse every second you're on his back. A lot of horses get along just fine in spite of what a trainer or an average rider has done, but there are many horses, potentially great ones, that really need a special touch. Something as simple as always being aware of what diagonal you're riding on at every gait is really important. It helps keep the horse balanced, prepares him for the next shift in direction or change of speed and gait. If he knows the pilot really knows how to ride, he'll be much more secure, confident, and collected. You can watch all the good videos and read all the right books, but that won't replace the thousands of hours required to develop a real connection with every horse you ride. And that's the horse training file. Our horses really enjoy that daily feeding of Hoffman's horse ration. It keeps them fit and looking good and feeling good, and you can find out more at hoffmanshorseration.com. The Stony Plain Cowboy Gathering is August 19th to 21st at Heritage Park, Stony Plain, with a great lineup of entertainers, including Eli Barzy, Jackson McKenzie, Ed Peekycoot, Doris Daly, Ryan Fritz.
It's raining in the saddle, the wind's in your face.
Celebrating cowboy traditions through music and poetry for 24 years. For reservations and information, call 780-963-6092 and see StonyPlainCowboyPoetry.com. Oh, going to be a lot of fun in Stony Plain this summer. Now, just before you hear another terrific song from Wren Hill, I was just wondering how things went at Curtis Anderson's annual Trail Ride for Brain Injury Awareness. It's held the last Saturday in May and has been every year since 2004.
Hello, Bill and Hugh. This is Curtis Anderson. The Curtis Family Trail Ride was held on May 28th. We had 58 on horseback, 6 wagons, 28 on the wagons, at 300 at supper. And this year there is 5 radio stations, 5 newspapers, 2 magazines, and 1 TV station that covered the ride. We can't put a number on how much awareness that was raised, and we raised $10,000 in the live auction and $2,500 in the silent auction, which will go to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And Bill and Hugh, thank you for the exposure on Spirit of the West to help raise brain injury awareness. Bye.
Hey, Curtis, thank you, and keep up the great work. Now, here's another one of those terrific new songs about contemporary cowboy life from Wren Hill.
She rode him and told him goodbye. Well, he was off serving a mission. He came home and went back to cowboying. She's 40 years old and still wishing when dawn breaks tomorrow on Utah, He'll saddle up once again and hit that long trot through the canyon. And she'll wake up wondering about him, singing, I could have married a cowboy, but I broke a good cowboy's heart. Now whenever I pass Highland Canyon, I wonder where and how on earth you are. The life that I chose is a good one, but between all the pain and the joy, I guess that I'll always wonder how it would be if I married a cowboy. At the 20-year high school reunion, she put on her best Sunday dress. She waited, but he never came. Too busy out taming the West, I guess. An old flame burned down to ashes, and ashes blow hard on the wind. She longingly woke up the next morning after wondering and wishing again, singing, I could have married a cowboy, but I broke a good cowboy's heart. Now whenever I pass Highland Canyon, I wonder where and how on earth you are. The life that I chose is a good one, but between all the pain and the joy, I guess that I'll always wonder how it would be if I married a cowboy.
So, Bren, just where does the inspiration for your songs come from?
Well, you know, every songwriter, the business of writing songs is just so busy, you know. I mean, you have to sit around and think stuff up all the time. So you got to get away. I still, to this day, I plan to steal time to throw a saddle on the back of a horse and go see some country, you know, with my dad and now with my son and with my buddies. And that's what I love to do the most. Part of what I do through my travels is try to find little, you know, to observe. You know, my job is to be observant, and as a songwriter. And
were there any other, maybe some folks that influenced you in the Western music genre earlier on that you learned from or were inspired by?
Well, I've tried to take in all types of music, you know, and I can pretty much listen to just about anything but rap. But specifically, I think the greatest influence on me has been a guy by the name of Ian Tyson, who comes from High River, Alberta, Canada. I probably don't need to tell you who Ian Tyson is right here in British Columbia, but he's a wonderful guy. He's been a friend and a mentor to me. And, you know, I was deep in the Payette National Forest of Idaho. I was 12 years old when I first heard Cowboyography. And we listened to that tape over and over and over again on a little battery-powered tape player around a campfire, and there was people there who were guys there who were influential to me. My uncle, who was a great horseman, and another friend of the family who was just a great guy. And it's sort of a time and a place that will never happen again. And every time I listen to Summer Wages and Navajo Rug and 50 Years Ago and the Claude Dallas song, and it takes me back to that time. And over the years, I've really studied Ian's writing, and along with a lot of other things. I've read poetry, Robert Frost, Robert Service. I've listened to Gordon Lightfoot, Neil Young, all Canadians, mind you. But any real singer-songwriter of any genre has influenced me, and I try to keep an open mind, and I feel like what I put out is just sort of a product of what I'm able to take in, and I'm gonna keep on writing.
And it is so good to hear that. Still to come, it's our classic Song of the West, which will, by the way, be done by Ian Tyson, and the story behind the song, and then a pretty good piece of cowboy poetry from Brian Salmond, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. In this week's classic Song of the West segment, we are looking at a traditional cowboy song collected and published in 1927 by Carl Sandburg in his highly acclaimed American Song Bag. Traveling the American Southwest, Sandburg found the song through Western poet Margaret Larkin and Lynn Riggs. They were both poets, actually, and he wrote that the song came to them in Santa Fe from a cowboy who was last heard of heading for the border with friends. He described the song as one of a man in harmony with the values of the North American West. There is rich poetry in the image of the rider, so loving a horse that he begs when he dies that his bones will be tied to his horse, and the two of them sent wandering with their faces turned to the west. You're probably starting to get an idea what song it is now. Members of the Western Writers of America chose it as one of the top 100 Western songs of all time. And the song is very similar and has been confused and sometimes blended with another song with a similar title. And there literally are hundreds of different arrangements to choose from. This song has become such a classic that it was used as the last song at a lot of the old-time country dances around the West. But folks don't even agree on the title. It's been called Goodbye Old Paint, I Ride an Old Paint, or Leavin' Cheyenne. And that's what Ian Tyson calls it in his version on this week's classic Song of the West.
I ride an old paint, a leadin' old dam. I'm going to Montana for to throw the houlihan. They feed in the coulees and they water in the dry. Their tails are all matted and their backs are all raw. Goodbye, old paint, I'm leaving Cheyenne. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a leaving Cheyenne. I'm leaving Cheyenne, I'm going to Montana. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a leaving Cheyenne. Now old Bill Jones had 2 daughters and a son. The son went to Denver and the daughters went run. His wife, she got killed in a poor road fight, but still he keeps a singing from morning till night. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a leaving Cheyenne. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a leaving Cheyenne. I'm leaving Cheyenne, I'm going to Montana. Goodbye, old paint, I'm a leaving Cheyenne. Now when I die, take my saddle from the wall, put it on the pony, lead him out of his stall, tie my bones to his back, head our faces towards the west. We'll ride the prairie that we love the best. Ride around, oh pain, I'm a leading Cheyenne. And goodbye, oh pain, I'm leaving Cheyenne. I'm leaving Cheyenne. I'm going to Montana. Goodbye, oh pain, I'm leaving Cheyenne. Goodbye, oh pain, I'm leaving Cheyenne. Goodbye, oh pain, I'm leaving Cheyenne.
Quite a few prominent musicians you might know on there. David Wilkie on mandolin, and I think Myron Zott on fiddle, and Nathan Tinkham on lead guitar as well, on Ian Tyson's Leavin' Cheyenne. Well, Brian Salmond is in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight this week, and it was Brian who won the Keeper of the West belt buckle presented by the Horse Barn at the Kamloops Cowboy Festival back in March for another great original poem. And you may know what happened next. When we presented Brian with the buckle, he called Curtis Anderson up to the stage and he said, "Partner, you deserve this more than I do." And he gave the buckle to Curtis. And you know, most ranchers have some special cows they think fondly of. I know we've had a few over the years, for a number of different reasons. Brian had one that inspired this poem, Some Cows Are Just That Way.
Auction sales are common sights for folks to tip a jug, to meet and greet your neighbors, maybe share a little tug, or buy a pen of heifers to replace your aging herd. I'd simply wave to greet old friends, and then I got the word. Sold right up there, row 7, thank you, sir, goodbye. I realized the truth revealed and felt like I should cry. For she claimed the ring a demon, and she left it plumb berserk, and cleaned out all the yard hands like a pit bull at his work. Some cows are just that way. She went charging down the alley, people scattered to and fro. Some cleared the pens and some dove through or slid out down below. Her nose a-flowing mucus and her eyeballs glowing red. She'll calm down when you get her home, is what my partner said. You bet, some cows are just that way. She had a blend of plexiglass and wiring hung upon her horns. As I swung the door to turn her loose, my spirits now forlorn. So I talked to her in quiet tones. She charged me sure and fast. My heart rate soars, I'm running scared, my life a-flashing past. Some cows run that way. I holler sick 'em to my cow dog who can really pack the torch, but he goes streaking by me and dives beneath the porch. And he stayed there for a couple days, hoping she might never see. He whines a lot and whimpers now and even squats to pee. Some cows affect dogs that way. And I'm thinking I should brand her up if I can find a hand, but a survey of her mangy hide shows nowhere I could land. She's been evicted several times like redirected mail, a display of ranchers' autographs that sent her down the trail. Some cows are just movers. We took her on and calved her out, and when baby hit the ground, it changed her whole composure. It got worse is what I found. She became baby's protector, no intrusions around this joint, and caved my dually door in just to prove her bovine point. Some cows will point that way, but she always brought her calf in from the pastures in the fall, and he'd be fat and sassy with the closing season's call. She's never had a vet bill, I've never trimmed her feet. She's birthed me 7 weanlings and done the job complete. Some cows do try. And for the dangers of the ranges, she's always stands on guard. For fate to steal her calf away would test out mighty hard. I've seen the evidence in the sand that proves she's hard to beat, where she bit a chunk from some wolf's tail as he made his retreat. Some cows are carnivores. Well, the liners came to haul the calves a couple weeks ago, and we loaded culls and swing bags. It was her time, you know. She took out a span of 4-inch pine, the rails that formed the corral, and headed west running hard like she'd escaped from hell. Some cows are vindictive. Now she's out there with the heifers. Let's just keep her one more year. There's extra feed and water, and she's used to things out here. We got our credits yesterday. We did good at the scale. And that cranky cow with 220 tag, her calf just topped the sale. Some cows are just that way.
Well, thank you so much for making the ride this week, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. Thanks again to the Spirit of the West support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. Check them out at meadowsprings.com. And I just went through the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine. What a great one this is, and there's a picture of Brian presenting Curtis with that Keeper of the West buckle. You can subscribe online at cowboycountrymagazine.com or just call 1-800-943-7336. Oh yeah, and be sure to check out our new Spirit of the West radio show Facebook page. And if you like it, maybe you can share it, and that'll help us for sure. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.